If I took a look at a collection of everything you post online, do I see a coherent, consistent body of work or just a bunch of decorations?
Welcome to the show. Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Welcome to Your Ultimate Life. Today is a Thursday episode, an episode purely for coaches. I'm trying to help you create a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy where you get paid well, you have lots of clients, and you feel like you're making the difference in the world you want. If you're already doing that, like you're making good money, at least $100K a year, and you're making a huge impact, then I have a request for you. Will you get a hold of me? YourUltimateLifePodcast.com. There's a contact form there, and I'd love to share your story, your truth, your message with a very large audience. We have a large reach on our podcast, and I'd like to share what you've learned and what you have if you want to. So that's an invitation for you. 95% of coaches don't make $100,000. In fact, probably 96 or 7% don't. Now, 100K is an arbitrary number, arbitrary as hell. I understand that. But if we're not making 100K, you're not really making a living. You've got to have either another gig or a partner or something like that. Less important than the money is your ability to make the impact you want. Because if we don't get well paid, then we're scrambling, and that diffuses our effort to make the difference in the world that we want to. Now, I realize if you do one-to-one coaching, you are making a difference, one person at a time. That one person has a significant ripple effect. I know that, and you know that. And most people that I know, especially those in the coaching business, want to help many, tens, hundreds, thousands, millions of people. That is not a pipe dream. It is possible. My personal goal is to help 300 million people understand, Wippos, your worth, your identity, your own possibility, the ownership you have, and the sovereignty that you own as the sovereign of your life. There's a fake crown, right? Or a imaginary crown. Here's the thing. Most by the massive percentage, most coaches are trying to gather clients by posting endlessly online. I purposely had this picture of a lot of bright lights and bright, shiny things. If you're not watching the video, you should, because over this shoulder here, it almost looks like a Christmas tree, but it's a collection of posts and, social media icons and that kind of stuff to show that you're busy posting online. Well, that's not very effective. It's not very effective. Endless posting is not going to either create the kind of client base you want, nor is it going to create the impact in the world you want. Instead, it is a frustrating black hole of wasted effort. Now, I'm not saying not to use social media. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that most of what I see, in fact, nearly all of what I see on there is a waste of time. And by that, I mean it's not creating you clients and it's not creating you the impact. And you live endlessly in this treadmill of more content, more reels, more posts, more opinions, and more essentially noise. And you get lost in this landslide of noise. I'm still seeing people post online about become a life coach, make money from anywhere, do good, help people. Those words are true, but the methods being taught are phony, shallow, and ineffective. And I'm saying that not to offend anyone, but because some radical things have happened that make that truer than it used to be. It used to be true, but we could, I say we because I'm a coach too, and because I used to think that endless presence on one or another social media was going to get me something. 10 years ago, it may have been true. You could build a following, and you can still do that, but it takes massive dedication. And more than that, it takes a consistent, coherent body of work, not just endless observations about how life is or ought to be. So if all you do is feed the feed is going to eat your lunch. It's going to eat you alive. You're going to get frustrated. So here's the couple of true things. Content is not the problem. Even if you put great content, fragmentation is the problem. Nearly all of the social media feeds are buried in memes, in motivational quotes, in inspirational stories, in even tear-jerking things that cause emotion. And they're not going to be the things that gather you or me clients. So what is? Well, I know several. Personally, I know several coaches that are way up in the mid to high six figure, even seven figure realm. And I know exactly what they do to create clients. And it isn't an endless social media approach. It is a different approach. It is an approach based on consistency and a deep body of content. Now, this picture over here, if you're watching the video, and I hope you are, a light and a journal and some books, there's lots of ways to accumulate a body of work. And the core of your body of work is your own lived experience. Because everything else you might write about is not coming from a place of truth in you. It's borrowed authority and borrowed words. Now, there's absolutely nothing untoward about devouring good books, going to good conferences, listening to good talks that resonate with you. But they're meaningless unless they make a dent in or add to or activate or elevate the truth that you already know. And then only if you incorporate those truths, that power into your life. In other words, if whatever you read, see, go to, attend causes a change, a significant and permanent change, long-term, sustainable behavioral change in you, it doesn't mean anything. I read somewhere or heard somewhere, the meaning of something is the difference it makes. If it makes no difference, it has no meaning, which means if something you read or consume or attend doesn't make a difference in how you operate permanently, it doesn't matter. So I want you to think about that. And I'm going to give you some alternatives after we talk about why this endless positioning work doesn't work to create the impact or the income you want, and what does work. Okay, so here's the question. If you do a lot of social media presence, what are you building besides posts? Like what is actually coming? Maybe you have followers, clicks, likes, and all that sort of stuff. Are you building a responsive tribe, meaning a group of people who are interacting with you in a powerful way that are very likely to get curious and perhaps want to talk more? I'm not even saying want to hire you, because that comes after conversation. It comes after real interaction. Yes, you can sell $100 or $200 or $300 programs or $20 memberships that are surface level offerings, and there's nothing wrong with those. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dissing anyone's offering to add good to the world, but they're not going to allow you to create the impact you want, and they're certainly not going to allow you to create substantial wealth, where you are not only making the difference you want, but you're making a good deal of passive income. Now, passive income is money that you make, people like to say while you sleep, but it's money. It is products and services that are continuing to provide value without your direct presence. That's the only way to build a sustainable business, period. Now, if you don't want to build a sustainable business and you want it to only work as long as you're there, that's fine. All right, so I'm going to talk about what a body of work is, because I believe creating a coherent body of work is one of, and I won't say the only, most powerful ways to both create the impact you want in the world and the income, sustainable, passive, long-term income that lets you create behavioral change in others, elevate and lift them, and at the same time, lift yourself and live the ultimate life. Because remember, this podcast is all about purpose, prosperity, and joy. First of all, do you know your purpose? Can you say your purpose in a sentence? My purpose, and I have a dozen ways to say it, but they're all short and clear. One is, I am creating 3,000 millionaires and 300 deca-millionaires, which is 10 million. I'm creating that many people that create that level of wealth, but they create it in a particular way by using their life experience and their gifts, their divine nature, gifts, and life experience. That means they create that wealth doing what they came here to do. Everybody talks about, what is my purpose? Well, find it. Like, if you want help, get a hold of me. YourUltimateLifePodcast.com and use the contact form. I can help you find your purpose if you don't have it nailed to the wall. If it's sort of vague and wishy-washy, or if it's said in vague words like, I want to help people, you're not accomplishing it. I can tell you right now, you're not accomplishing your purpose. And you're certainly not doing it in a way that creates the income and impact that you dreamed about. If you want help with that, get a hold of me, because I can help you do it. I've learned it. I've done it for myself and others. Anyway, so a body of work is a coherent set of ideas. You know what? My coherent set of ideas came from, guess what? Finding and exercising my purpose. Another way I say my own purpose is I'm helping 300 million people understand their WIPOS, worth, identity, possibility, ownership, sovereignty, which means own and claim their own divine mission and purpose, and then use it to serve and get paid. So my outreach for that is, I have this podcast, I have LA Talk Radio, I'm in lots of masterminds, and that process brings me clients who resonate with WIPOS, or with the 3,000 millionaire, 300 decamillionaire, people that know they want that, and they want to create it again with their life experience and the story of their becoming. Why, that works for me, and it works over and over and over again. And I can show you how to do that, because that's my mission. A body of work is also organized distinctions. Now, you have learned in your own life journey a whole bunch of important things, right? And I don't know, but do you have them all organized so they're repeatable, and you can teach them as truths, and you can help people with the right ones at the right time? I have found that the best way to do that is to write a book. Not about anything, but about the story of your becoming, because that forces us, that's why I write, it forces us to organize and present those things in a powerful way. And it allows people that you don't interact with directly to read and interact with the truths that you know. When you use your own life experience, it allows you to also write powerfully. That makes a big difference for people. Okay, so here's a list of things that a body of work represents. Okay, it's a coherent set of ideas. It's organized distinctions or truths. It is things that you see repeatedly. It is a structured philosophy that's not just talking about something, but it's stuff you know to be true. It is a teachable framework, not a borrowed framework that you read in somebody else's stuff, but it is a set of truths. A framework's just an organizational tool. It's a framework that you can teach that comes from the power of your own learning. And that means anyone that is listening to themselves or struggling with the issues, ideas, thoughts, barriers, problems that you dealt with will resonate with your framework and your teaching. An organized body of work is also stories, examples, methods, language, acronyms, things that you have created and that have all come out of your own experience. That's an organized body of work. That allows you to offer programs, services, speaking, talks, workshop, keynotes, coaching, group, private, whatever you want to do in a way that is coherent, consistent, and powerful. When I look back over the years, and I started this journey 19 years ago, at the changes that I've made, I started describing the work this way, and then this way, and this way. And gradually what I noticed is it all has come, not by itself. I have pulled it all into a coherent set of frameworks that allows me to be powerful, to be effective, and to get paid really well. Now, the Thursday episodes that we're talking about here, that today's one of, were originally structured around this book, Coaching and the Rise of AI, which came out about 6 months ago or 7. And it is a predictive work about what AI is doing in the coaching world. Okay, 95% of you and me, us as coaches, we're going to be out of business by Christmas if we don't adopt a powerful method of coaching that cannot be duplicated by AI. And it is not enough for you or me to say, well, AI can't be the human touch and the human thing and the human interaction and the human connection, and that's enough. You're wrong. AI is getting better and better at simulating words of empathy and connection and understanding and encouragement and challenging and calling people out and producing accountability. It's getting better than you can imagine at that. That's not a problem. It's actually a good sifting mechanism to eliminate all the stuff that used to pass for coaching that isn't. Good questions, good frameworks, and I'm talking about that are borrowed frameworks. Your own taught with your own power is a different animal. But good questions, coaching, frameworks, and all the phrases and sayings about getting out of your way and stepping into your power and all of that stuff are useless. AI can do them better and faster. So if that is any substantial part of your work, you're done. You're done. Unless you move to a different model. Now, in the book, Coaching and the Rise of AI, I propose a coaching model that is invincible, AI-proof completely. And you don't have to adopt my model. I offered it as one that I know for sure cannot be duplicated by AI. And how I know that was the research I did writing the book. I examined 11 existing models of coaching, and 11 isn't all of them, but it was a good sampling about how effective they were about delivering results and how vulnerable they were to AI. I proposed a new model, complete and detailed, and I ran it through the same analysis, and AI pronounced it invulnerable, 0% of being replaced or taken away by AI. And the reason is it depends, yes, on the human connection, but that is the tiniest part. And that's what everybody that I have interviewed, we did these Thursday I've interviewed 50 coaches or so, asking them about that. And the human part. That's true, but that's just scratching the surface. The real truth is that body of work. And by that, I mean embodiment. Are you all in? Do you represent the truth of what you coach? Getting out of your own way, getting rid of negative self-talk, getting rid of imposter syndrome, getting rid of all of those things that people come to us with. If you're struggling with those, you're replaceable. If you're not in a coaching container that is helping you make dramatic and sustained progress, you're replaceable. And you might get mad at me for saying that, but you're going to see, and I don't want that for you. Because coaching, I think, is going to be more valuable than it ever has been because of the human element. But it has to be founded on your own lived experience. All right. A body of work is not a bunch of disconnected tips, clever posts, motivational content without powerful scaffolding. It's not random inspiration. It's not encouraging thought. A body of work is the difference between being visible and being valuable. I want you to hear that. That's a key distinction. Being visible is one thing, yay. And that used to get you attention, and people would say, I want to be like you, and then talk to you, and you could sell them stuff. Being valuable is the only thing that will stand anymore, because the AI tools are getting so sophisticated at helping people be visible and creating cool sounding stuff. The feed on all the social media, nearly all of them, reward novelty. Okay, authority rewards coherence, meaning it is all connected and focused, and you're comfortable in that place. You don't need more content. You need more structure. Okay. And it's funny when I ask people, okay, when you coaches or helpers, in some case, I say, well, okay, great. When someone comes to you with this or that problem, and I'll say one of the things that you and I've heard 100 times, how do you approach it? Well, it's all custom. You have a particular approach. And if you haven't figured it out and defined it yet, you're gone. You're gone. All right. So here are some reasons that coaches resist building this body of work, this structure that they can stand on firmly, without question, without hesitation, and invincibly. And do you know where you can get that kind of power? The only place is your own lived truth. That's it. You can't get it anywhere else. You can't borrow it. You can't buy it. I don't care who you study with or coach with. If it doesn't become your lived truth, you can't build a powerful foundation and a coherent body of work on which to build an effective, well-paid, and big impact coaching practice. People resist because it takes time. It takes vulnerability. It requires intense clarity. It requires that you step out and stand for something. It exposes, like terrifyingly boldly, vagueness. If you're vague about it, you're finished. Another thing it does in all of us, and I'm talking to me too, it's just that I studied this, I've made these changes, and I see that they work, and so I'm sharing them with you. It requires commitment. It really does. I am in a coaching container. I will be forever. Why? Because I want to be challenged. I want to be growing. I want the truth of what I teach to be backed up by the energetic certainty of growth. And if we're not doing that, we're going to be pushed out of the field. Another reason people resist is that it narrows the field. It puts us in an uncomfortable place of having to stand in the truth of what we coach and teach. Okay? It reveals whether you actually live what you say you believe. And that's terrifying. It makes me sad when I hear coaches say, well, I help people with this and this and this, and it's the typical things: fear, imposter syndrome, getting out of your own way, bad self-talk, negative past experiences, accumulated trauma, and, the list is long, nervous system regulation. I help people with that. And then when I ask them how they're doing, well, I can't seem to help myself, and I still have trouble. And, as soon as I hear the word, well, I already know what's coming next. Nothing that matters. And that's a sad thing. Another reason people avoid this is because posting's easy, especially with AI. You drum up cool sounding posts and an endless stream of motivational stuff and stuff to lift and help and promise people the moon, except if you're not living it, they're not going to hire you. Content feels productive, and it allows us to avoid the real work of growth. A body of work, on the other hand, feels permanent, foundational, and it exposes the hell out of you, because people can laugh or push or disagree, and then it makes you have to stand in your truth. You can hide in activity, busyness for years and never get anything done and never build anything that lasts. And you probably know people like that, and maybe you are or have done that. This is your invitation to step out of that. Okay? Here's some examples. If you post daily and it isn't part of this coherent body of work, you're done. If you've never written the book, The Story of Your Own Becoming, you're leaving millions of dollars and millions of souls on the table. You can disagree, but it's the truth. if you spend your time sharing opinions, interacting in a light and, superficial way, if you never name your framework and create your own acronyms and doctrine and teaching, I want you to think about, there's something, you can pick your own example, but I'm going to use martial arts for a moment. I studied martial arts for many years under two real significant masters. Okay, one was off the charts. Pedigree, he was the first generation student of a legendary grandmaster in Okinawa. Okay. And I had another guy who had almost that same pedigree, one more generation in between. I went to other dojos and studied with other people, but it was never the same in just the energy and truth. The reason is because they were grounded in the principles and truth and lineage and understanding that they had, not only of the moves and of, kite fighting and sparring and breaking and things like that, not only in that, but in the certainty of their method and technique and teaching. When you study martial arts, you can just go to your neighborhood dojo and they'll exercise the daylights out of you and you'll get fit. If they're good. I'm excluding all the ones that are dabblers. If you go to a good one that's pretty good, you can be exercised. It can be part of your fitness routine. In fact, it can be your whole fitness routine if you go 3 times a week and then do some stuff in between at home. I did that. I was using martial arts back when I was in my late 30s, when I needed to lose nearly 100 pounds. I was 90 pounds overweight and I lost, or 80 pounds overweight, and I lost 90. And I got in fantastic shape and it was amazing. And it took a year and it was brutal, but I did it the hard way. And it happened to be under one of those masters, really powerful. So I earned a first degree and then a second degree black belt. And then I also, got certified as an instructor and, to be able to open my own school, which I did briefly, not for a long time. You pick your master. You don't go from this guy to that guy. And I never had the opportunity to study with a female grandmaster, so I don't know about those. But you pick one and you study with them and you trust them. You need to be one of those, and you are the originating grandmaster of your own life experience. But if you don't organize it, in martial arts, there's a set of exercises and kata and moves and names and those different things. And it's organized and powerful. And you can argue about which style is better or worse than others, Korean style, Okinawan style, Chinese style, Kung Fu, Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee stuff. You can argue about all that. That's fine. But when you're studying to learn and be that, you pick one. When you are creating your own body of work, you gotta pick one. Pick your grandmaster and study with them. And at the same time, build your body of work. Your acronyms, your frameworks, your tools, and every single one of them have to come from your own lived experience. You can't borrow expertise in the dojo. If you're going to go there and spar, and you're going to spar against someone that's 1 or 2 black belt degrees above you, man, you got to be rooted in your own stuff. You're going to get hit anyway because they've got years on you. But if you're going to be there at all, you've got to be clear. And I'm, using a martial arts example, but anything is the same if you want to get to real expertise. And all that's going to be left in the coaching business is real expertise. So if you want to stay in this business, and I want you to, I invite you to, you got to be in a coaching container. You got to pick your grandmaster or whatever you want to call it. And you got to formulate your own body of work. You got to write the book of your own becoming, because that's the most effective way to organize your teaching and your material. People want to avoid the work and avoid the architecture and avoid being exposed and avoid being vulnerable, and that's understandable. but it's also, it lacks power. It's powerless. It's empty. It's fragile. It can be knocked over easily. So I want to offer you that truth from my own experience. My work started getting powerful and attracting the kind of clients that are long-term and build a practice when I did those things. So here's some questions for you to think about. Are you just expressing yourself, or are you building a true framework that's repeatable and powerful? What do people walk away with about you from your work? What people walk away knowing because of your work? That's a really interesting question. If they're exposed to you, what do they walk away knowing? Could your ideas, tools, framework, all that survive without your daily input? In other words, if you stop that daily churn, would you disappear? If that's true, you're in trouble. Now, I have to say, I know people who don't use social media to build a coaching practice, but they do exactly what I'm saying anyway. They have built a body of work. They have consistent approaches. They have consistent language and frameworks, and every single piece comes from their lived experience. They've just chosen not to use social media as a mechanism to share that. Rather, they share it in small groups or one-to-one, or just how they walk through the world. You can do that, but that triples the importance of what I've just said. Because if you're not using any broadcast method to reach people, that's fine. But that means that every breath, every walk through life, every day, every interaction has got to be grounded in the truth of what you know and what you teach and the books you've written or the processes you've codified and named. Now, I've talked to coaches who insist I don't have a process. And then when they describe to me what they do, I realize that they have an absolute process. They're just not naming it. They're just not calling it. Here's what I know. Every self-help thing that's worth a darn is grounded and founded in love. Loving people as much as you love yourself, golden rules, is critical, foundational, and non-negotiable. Period. End of story. The second thing is to see and acknowledge the greatness before you. Saying to people to step into their greatness or get out of their own way or all that stuff is meaningless language unless they can feel from your energy that you are in awe of their awesomeness. And yeah, that's two awes, awe of their awesomeness. But it's true, everyone you meet's a divine being with capability. And if they can sense from you that you know and acknowledge their awesomeness, they will be encouraged and drawn to you. But it has to be truth. See, sometimes people get this idea that if I don't stand above, more important, more developed than somebody that I'm talking to, they won't hire me because, oh, wow, I mean, they'll think I'm no better than them. That's the truth. You're no better than them. Maybe you can love them more than they love themselves. Maybe you can encourage them more than they encourage themselves. Maybe you can see the greatness in them more than they see themselves. That's power. And that has nothing to do at all with you being above. It has to do with loving and listening with love and intensity, and then standing with them and helping them see an awesome thing they haven't seen before. But all that has to come from your own personal experience. The most strategic and powerful way to make that real is to write the book and the story of your own becoming. That's more powerful than any other way. So whether you use social media or not doesn't matter. What matters is you are in the growth process powerfully and unmistakably. Now, I want to mention this too, because this was the genesis of this Thursday episode. AI has exposed this more than ever because AI can sound powerful. AI can write great posts. AI can spew an endless stream of motivational things, tear-jerking stories, powerful, anecdotes, and create images to go with it, right? And we can all be jaded and say that's AI. But the point is, if you don't have the ability to transmit truth through your eyes, through your words, through your love, and through the very essence of your being, you're going to be out of business as a coach. I don't say that as a threat. It is simply a truth. And that's sad because we need you in your most powerful, most vulnerable, most visible, most serving, and most loving self. Because the truth, when people say to me, oh, it's about the human thing, is right. That is right. But it's not going to be enough to get you high-ticket clients. It isn't. What's going to get you high-ticket clients is you can love them more than they love themselves. You can see greatness in them more than they can see, and you can transmit that truth from a place of your own growth and being. Otherwise, all we're doing is talking about it, and that carries no power. Any power that it creates is very short term. I want you to think about events that you've been to where somebody stands on stage in loud music and yelling and saying, you this, and tells you all that, and you get all hyped up for a minute or a day or even a week. But when you go home and get back into life and it disappears, why? Because it wasn't anchored in you with truth. It was from the outside. Those outside things will never last and will never create the kind of change we need to create as coaches. So we need to have an unmistakable voice over time. Here's things AI can't duplicate. Your original method and experience of integration. That's unmistakable. AI can't generate a coherent philosophy over time that is grounded in lived experience. AI cannot generate life-earned perspective. All it can do is talk about those things, and it does it really well. So I want you to think about how important you are to the growth of the world. If your feeling is, I want to make a difference, I want to add good to the world, I want to raise the consciousness of humanity, I want to bring more love and less this, that, and the other, all those words are beautiful, but if you're not living them, or if I'm not living them, we're toast, okay? When everyone can publish stuff like this endless stream of AI stuff we see, when everybody can do that, the only things that matter are those who build something permanent and real. So I invite you to do that. If you have a story, yourultimatelifepodcast.com contact form. I'd like to share your experience of doing that. If you want help creating the things that I've talked about and getting both either the coaching or learning how to write your own book or create your own program that's based on those powerful and invincible fundamentals, same thing, yourultimatelifepodcast.com. Use the contact form and let's talk, because that's all I do. I'm a coach. I'm an author. I help people discover and write their stories and develop and serve with their gifts and talents. The more content there is, the more that architecture actually matters. A body of work is how you stop being just making noise and another noise in the feed and start being a coherent magnet. A body of work creates authority, and you'll know this, and you won't know it till you do it. It creates memorability, meaning people can remember. Trust. It creates trust because of consistency. It creates leverage. It creates really powerful clarity about what you offer. And you know what that supports? That supports an endless stream of clients. It supports and creates speaking opportunities because you're clear. And I notice that, I see it because I've gone from thinking the other way to experiencing the truth of what I've just said this whole episode. And I can show you how, because I'm not magic. It also creates premium experiences and premium pricing. That's the way to make the difference you want to make in the world and get paid. But it does force self-definition. It exposes anything that we're pretending that we're not. It forces us to have courage. It forces us to own the truth of our lives. And I want you to do that because that's where our power is as coaches. Otherwise, we're going to be eliminated because AI's commoditized expertise, and it's getting better and better at simulating emotional language. And so that real humanness that people talk about has to be accompanied by the truth of our being, who we are in the world all the time, not when we put the coaching jacket on. So my invitation is stop feeding the feed. If you choose to use social media, it has to come from a coherent thing of building that has a spine. You can keep performing relevance, or you can build something that matters. You can build a durable authority. Write the book, create your acronyms, build your own lived framework. Be vulnerable and share. If you need help with any of that, that's all I do. I do it for me and it works, and I do it for clients and it works. It's fabulous beyond words. The feed's going to forget quickly, okay? A body of work is going to endure. It's going to create lasting authority and give you the ability to create both the income and impact you want as a coach. This episode is for those who coach. I love you. We need you. And there's nothing that can stand in your way except your own indecision. So I invite you to dive in, get a hold of me if you need help. And whatever you do, love yourself and know for sure that you have the ability right here, right now, to create your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe. Share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your feet on